Hey, what's up, everybody? I know you are probably in as much shock as I am after watching the season finale of The Mandalorian. Oh my God. I just came home and just done this in my work clothes. I had to get this. God, I'd watched it twice this morning. Then had to go to work on that hike. This episode was amazing. Um, I was sobbing this morning, both times, and I know a bunch of grown men were out there sobbing. Okay, just spoilers ahead here, just so you know. The Luke Skywalker is back. I was wondering if they were gonna do it, and they did it. And when you seen the X-wing, I was like, oh my, oh, oh. And then when he's mowing them dart troopers down, and then he crushes one with the Force. It was the choreography of that scene too, and that hallway scene right towards the end of that. Oh my gosh! And then R2 and Grogu had that moment. Oh, but before that, rewind real quick. He goes to get help from Bo-Katan and one of her night owls. The other one, we don't know what happened to him. And Boba and her get into a scuffle. They're taking jabs at each other. Between Boba, Bo-Katan, and her night owl. I can't remember her name, but Sasha Banks plays her. So that was entertaining. Them taking little jabs at each other. She even mentions, like, I've heard your voice before. Yeah, you're a clone, and then they numerous little things back and forth, and then they get help from Bo-Katan them, because Bo-Katan wants that darksaber back no matter what, and Din's just like, whatever, I'll help you try to reclaim Mandalore. If you would do, I'll do whatever I need to do to get the child back. And so she goes and helps them, and Din comes in kind of later after they go in guns a blazing. He tries to sneak in after them. To get the child. And so Fennec Shan, Cara Dune, and Bo-Katan and her and the Sasha Banks character are all blazing all these stormtroopers. Really cool scene. And when Cara Dune's kind of gun gets jammed, you can hear her. I can't. She said Dank Farrik and something else, numerous Star Wars curse words, and she was just funny, just getting it, trying to mess with it, and she's having her issues over there in the elevator, and she finally gets it to work. But then Mando is hurrying to get to the child, and first shut off the Dart Troopers because they're being activated. Moff Gideon tells them to activate the Dart Troopers when he sees them get on the ship, and then they're about to come out, and then one gets through, and then it shuts. But the other ones are trying to get out, and Mando's having a time with this one, and he's wailing on his face. I'm like, my gosh, that Beskar is strong though, but man, that would give you a headache after, I'm sure. And then he ends up getting out of that and stabbing it with the Beskar spear, and then he lets all the others out. He lets the airlock open, and then they fly out. And I was like, man, that was only one. I was like, if one can do that, maybe it's good that they flown out of the airlock. But then I was like, well, that's kind of not disappointing. But I was like, man, I was hoping to get to see more of them. Then he goes to find his way to Grogu, and then where do you think Moff Gideon is? Right there, with Grogu with his little cuffs, with the darksaber holding on to him. And then he goes to talk to him, and he kind of gives an explanation too of the darksaber and what it means for the audience, so to speak, that didn't necessarily know, that hadn't watched Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff, as far as that being the symbol of leadership, to be the Mandalore, which is the leader of Mandalore, in order to rule over it. That's what you wield, that the Darksaber. and and then he ends up talking to him, and he says he sees the bond between him and the child, and then so and such, and then he says, well, I've already got what I need from him. Here, you can take him. I've already got enough blood, what I need from his high M count. And then I knew, I was like, no, there's something ain't right. And then he goes to turn his back, and then Moff Gideon starts to wail on him, and luckily he can dodge it. And then there's this epic fight they have in the hallway. And then eventually he gets his Beskar spear out, and it's on. And there's the choreography of that is so great. And then when he has it on the ground behind him, kicks it up right back around and to Moff Gideon. And then Moff Gideon gets tied up with his Mando zip line, slashes it. And the part where they have the Darksaber and it's grinding up in the wall as they're moving. Oh my gosh, it was just so well done. But then he bests him, but he spares his life, and even Moff Gideon says, "Oh, you spared my life. Well, I'm sure this will be interesting." So then he takes him to the bridge where Bo-Katan, Cara Dune, and Fennec are with the child, and they have Moff Gideon there. And then, the Dark Troopers somehow made their way. They're pretty much flying in from space, and they're not gone. I was wondering, because that was a little not too easy. He had time with them, but and then they came back, and they're coming for the bridge, and then they finally get there, and you see some of them just wailing, pounding on the door, and that scene kind of simmered for a while, and I was like, oh man, they're building this up a lot. I was like, almost a little too much, man. They're hitting at the door a lot, and they'll hit the door some, and then they'll show them, and they were sticking on those shots for a good long while. Then I figure out why, because then you hear a little beep from the ship, and then you see an X-wing, and Cara Dune even says, oh, what's one X-wing gonna do? And then you see him going through the hallway, and it's a cloaked figure. I'm like, oh my gosh, is it Luke? And then you see the lightsaber first time on the screen. You don't know it's green yet, but you see him slashing through these guys. And then it's similar to when Ahsoka first comes into frame, a shot from behind where you just see her walk up and you see the lightsaber. Very similar shot when they show Luke for the first time with the green lightsaber. He's walking up from behind, and it's a very similar shot as you both see them in person for the first time. Both of those opening shots in her episode and in this one. And he's just wailing on these, and oh my gosh. And the music on this scene where he's taking out these Dark Troopers, even before he gets to the hallway, and then the hallway scene, the music, Ludwig Göransson, phenomenal. He added so much weight, I think, to that. For him returning, God, I was sobbing. I know a bunch of people were. It was just so, I was like, I thought they'd do it. It makes sense, but they actually did it. I'm like, and then he using the Force in all these ways, and you can tell the finesse that he's taken out these Dark Troopers with his lightsaber and with the Force. He was just phenomenal. And then he finally gets there, uncloaks, and apparently they done it with CGI. But they credited Mark Hamill, and he pretty much goes, and you can tell as he's kind of on the screen, Grogu kind of feels connected. Even right before when he gets there in the X-wing, you can tell Grogu starts to look around and sense something through the Force, and he sensed Luke. And I was like, okay, that's too many signs. Like the X-wing's one, then Grogu's starting to have his ears perked up. He's looking around. It was a few little things, but they actually did it. And he gets there, and he says, this wants the child to come with him, and then Den has, it sounded good too. It looked pretty good, and it sounded good as far as the audio and the visual of him when he uncloaked and he put his hood down, and then Den has this moment with Grogu, and oh my gosh, the waterworks were already falling like joyful tears of Luke coming back in that amazing scene as he takes out all those Dark Troopers to get to this point, and then Den pretty much is holding him and talking to him, and then Grogu touches his face, his helmet on his face, And then Din Djarin takes off his helmet, and then they look at each other, and then Grogu touches his face again without his helmet on. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was losing it. Luke for happy tears, and this was just overtaking me with emotion. And then even Luke says, what did he say? Shoot, he wants your permission. He wants your permission to be able to go. And then he's saying, talking to him, he's like, don't be afraid. And it was, and he sits him down even. Then he's still hugging on his leg and looking up at him. And then R2-D2 comes in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, another thing. I'm like, oh. And then him and Grogu have a moment, and they're like, you can tell they're like communicating, and it was adorable. And I was just like, oh, more. But and if you think about it, R2 might have known him from the Jedi Temple, so he might have recognized him, and that's just crazy. And then Grogu goes with him, and you see him looking at the shot as Luke's walking away. Grogu's looking over his shoulder, looking at Din, and then Din helmetless, and the rest of them looking back at them, and then it shows them in the elevator, about to go, and then about to leave, and then the door shuts, and boom, episode over. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this episode was amazing. I can't even. Some of the best Star Wars, if not, I think the best Star Wars since Revenge of the Sith, since Disney's owned it. This is Favreau, Filoni are just, can't thank you enough. This whole season, really, and this episode to top it off, they're just mind-blowing. And then the setup at the end with Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett, coming December 2021. And I'm like, is that going to be his own sideshow, or surely they're not going to take all the attention away from Din Djarin and, Bo-Katan too. Now, so I don't know if that's, because it's airing right around the same time that Mando is next year. So many questions, but so many thoughts too. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, this is just my brief kind of thoughts real quick. I'm going to dive into this much deeper, but yeah, I know y'all are all going through it with me. This is just insane, amazing. So I was really speechless for a while, along with many of us, I'm sure, this morning. But yeah, I'm gonna definitely go into this deeper. But if you like this video, give it a like, thumbs up, subscribe, and hope you have a fantastic day. 'Cause this is the way. That episode was the way.